No, I was talking about the hell on X, all these people screaming at me and, yelling at the DailyWire and yelling at Jeremy. And I was, I think mostly me. I think it was mostly me. I was talking about this, that it's like hell. And I used to say that I very much suspect that people who are in hell don't know that they're in hell, that they think it's great and that's what makes it hell. Because what's funny, what was sad about it is they kept saying things like, obviously, look at these comments. The Daily Wire is finished. Jeremy's reputation is over. Klavan is down the drain. And I thought, no, that's in hell. But in reality, everything's fine, And I thought like that. Kierkegaard said that it's the nature of despair, that it doesn't know that it's despair. And I think that is something that has happened to us since the invention of the smartphone and social media. Now, this may pass. I believe it may pass. We haven't acclimated ourselves to this new technology. But there's a new book out by Jonathan Haidt, very intelligent guy. I really like reading his books. He's going to come on for an interview in a few weeks, I think. But he's got a new book called The Anxious Generation, How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. And he talks about the costs of the smartphone. Like I said, everything, even good things, they come with a cost. And he says the cost of the smartphone is time, the huge amount of time that we spend on it. 40 hours a week for preteens. For teens aged 13 to 18, it's closer to 50 hours a week. And obviously, it's worse, of course, for poor people, for blacks, Latinos, for LGBTQ people. So they are more and more isolated. And children and adolescents, he says, need a lot of time to play with each other or just hang out face to face. We all remember this from being a kid. Your peer group becomes everything to you. That's how you move from your parents and your family group into society. And now they've lost that. And of course, they lost it even more during the lockdowns, during this let's call it the great screw up. That's what we should call it. The percentage of 12th graders who said that they got together with their friends almost every day dropped sharply after 2009. And on top of this, the smartphone has increased anxiety and cut down on outside time. And this has aided parents and authorities to add to their anxiety. I've noticed this just personally. I've been an outdoorsman all my life, and I love hiking. I love going into the woods. And I don't have a good sense of direction, so I'm a good trail finder. I have to be a good trail finder. I never used to have a phone, obviously, before there were iPhones, before there were cell phones. I just used to hike in the woods. And sometimes I'd lose myself, and I'd be there at night. I used to go fishing down in this reservoir at the bottom of a hill in the woods. And sometimes I'd get so involved in my fishing, I'd forget that the sun was going down. And finding your way in the woods at night is extraordinarily difficult. But I never worried about it. I found my way. I always found my way. Once they invented the cell phone, I noticed that, I'll hardly go to the bathroom without my cell phone, because what if I get locked in, Because now that you have it, you think, well, I'll take it with me. I'll make sure. It's just, maybe I'll get a flat tire. So I'm just going to the store, but I'll take it with me in case I get a flat tire. You go into the woods and you think, well, I better take my cell phone in case I get lost. I've fallen, I've taken falls in the woods and all this stuff, and now it increases your anxiety. So Haidt talks about this, and I don't know if this is a TED Talk. He's talking at the National Summit on Education. And he points out the way we now treat our children, looking at a picture of a playground of a school in Berkeley. It's cut 5.
This is an elementary school in Berkeley, and you see kids on a playground, and there's a sign behind them. What does the sign say? Football rules. And it gives you rules for how to play football. Resolve disagreements with rock, paper, scissors. Here's the worst one of all. Football, and this is touch football because it says only touch, no tackle. Touch football can only be played if an adult is supervising and refereeing the game. Because if not, children might learn skills of negotiation and conflict resolution that are necessary for democratic society.
Okay, this system, this anxiety makes it harder for us to argue, to think, to go off on our own, to want to be on our own. He talks about what it creates as a cycle of incompetence, cut 6.
What schools are doing when they do this nonsense is they are creating a cycle of incompetence, which goes like this. Adults now assume social and physical incompetence of children. They can't do anything. They'll get hurt if they try. So we ban risky play and conflict. We don't understand that they're anti-fragile. They need risk, they need setbacks, they need conflicts. So we ban things that would help them grow. Guess what? This causes kids to be socially and physically incompetent. What effect does that have? It validates our assumption that they are socially and physically incompetent.
Now, I love Jonathan Haidt for feeling this only happens to children, but no, it's happened to us too, right? You assume people are incompetent, you don't let them do things, they become incompetent, you say, see, I told you, you were incompetent. That's the story of the shutdown, the pandemic shutdown, the great screw up that has destroyed our trust in all the people in charge who should leave. Every single one of them, anyone who is involved should lose his reputation, his office, his position, should be gone. They all should be gone. None of them is gone, which further increases the way we feel about them, that we're surrounded by incompetents who hate us. Now, I've played this. Here's a montage I must have played now 15 or 20 times. And I love it because it's so revelatory. This is a montage from our friends at Grabian of what the news media was saying after Donald Trump got COVID, came back, took off his mask, and said, do not let it dominate your life. Don't be afraid of it. Don't let it dominate your life. And this is the news media, what they said.
It's just so horrible, so destructive to say I feel better than I have in 20 years.
That he's saying this is so disrespectful.
The president says it's no big deal. I mean, it's outrageous.
It is insulting to the people who have lost loved ones. It is insulting to every American who wears a mask. I mean, it's disgraceful, Wolf. It's absurd.
Don't tell your supporters, don't be afraid of COVID. Everyone should be afraid of COVID.
It's okay to be afraid of COVID, and it's okay that it's dominating your life because it has dominated your life.
If Jake Tapper doesn't do well at the Last Judgment, he's just going to be locked in a room with that clip playing over and over again for all of eternity. Governor Ron DeSantis, who did really well I've been reading more about this, and he did really well during the pandemic and better than Trump. He did better than almost anybody. He has now signed a bill that will prohibit children younger than 14 from joining social media in the state of Florida. Those who are 14 or 15 will need a parent's consent before they join a platform. And he makes a really interesting point that the outdoors are now safer than the indoors. It's cut 7.
You look at young kids and you know there's dangers out there. Unfortunately, we've got predators who prey on young kids. And it used to be, well, if they're out somewhere, maybe they're not being supervised, maybe some predator can strike. Now, with things like social media and all this, you can have a kid in the house, safe seemingly, and then you have predators that can get right in there into your own home. You could be doing everything right, but know how to get and manipulate these different platforms.
So we really are more unsafe than we were, not because of the way not because we're being kept inside, but because we're being kept inside this little box. Studies have shown, and I think everybody knows this, that negative words spur clickbait. You get more clicks if you use negative words. So if you use words like harm, heartbroken, ugly, troubling, angry, you get more clicks. They teach this in journalism school. They teach you in journalism school how to get more clicks. And this also has a moral point, and this is something that a friend of mine said to me, but he doesn't like me to use his name. I just don't want to act as if it were my idea. He pointed out that suddenly everybody's using the term sex workers to mean whores, to mean prostitutes. Now, I'm very much against this. When they say sex work is work, that's what your pimp tells you. Sex work is degrading. Sex work is mental illness. It's the result of mental illness. Even in places like Nevada, and I researched this for one of my mystery stories for Damnation Street, even in places like Nevada where prostitution is legal, the prostitutes still have pimps who beat them up and steal their money. Because they have an illness, right? This is an illness to sell your body, to give your body to a man for money. That's not why, that's not why it was given to you. That's not why you should give it to someone else. So they teach this in journalism school, and it not only erodes our confidence, it erodes our morality because they use sex workers because sex makes people click. That's why they use it. They don't use it because they think a prostitute is not mentally ill. They use it because sex makes people click. So they use the word sex worker. We have a device that has sucked us out of the real world with its joys and pains. The real world is full of tragedy and comedy and delight and love and beauty, and taken us into a world where negativity is rewarded and positivity is punished, and where you get the sense that your rage and your unhealthiness and your misery is the world instead of just this little place inside the world. Do me a favor, like and subscribe, and don't forget to subscribe to The Andrew Klavan Show wherever you get your podcasts.